loving this NCAA tournament, and so is my man Dickie V. He'll be in the house. Guess who else will be in the house? The new UFC heavyweight champion of the world, the knockout artist himself, Francis Ngannou. Oh, by the way, did you see what the Brooklyn Nets did this weekend? Stacking the deck. I mean, damn, not once, but twice in the career of Kevin Durant has he been associated with something like this. You know I'm hyped. I know my man Max is hyped. Plus Molly's in the house. Can't beat that. First takes in the house. Next.
We're playing with Kevin Durant, James Harden. We know what the outside world expects of us.
Oh my God, this is going to be such a problem.
Coming for the top, but who gon' say a word to stop us? No squad, don't fear no competition. Hold up, slept on our greatness long enough. Now we gon' run a stroll up.
Our games and our skills, they speak for themselves.
The Durant dunk with a purpose.
It's going to be pretty tough for a team to stop us.
Who gon' stop us now?
Everyone's always focused on the Wild West, fellas, but don't sleep on the East Coast. What's going on, everybody? Welcome into First Take. Thank you so much for being with us. Stephen A. Smith, Max Kellerman, I'm Molly Karen Rose. Fellas, hope you had a fabulous weekend. A ton of great hoops, and that's where I want to start, but with the NBA. LaMarcus Aldridge, according to Woj, is expected to become the latest member of the Nets roster, taking his talents to Brooklyn. Aldridge was averaging just over 13 points per game for San Antonio before his buyout. Gentlemen, take a look at the Nets squad. Please just marinate on these names, would you? Kyrie Irving, James Harden, Kevin Durant, Blake Griffin, LaMarcus Aldridge. That's just to name a few, all joining forces for a playoff run. Brooklyn seems to be heading for Max's super duper team level, as he calls it. But Stephen A., are you getting turned off by the Nets stacking the deck here?
I am. And here's my thing, Max and Molly. This is what's rubbing me the wrong way. It's not the KD, Kyrie, James Harden thing. I got that. That's Lethal Weapon 3. I'm good with that, Max. It's not a problem. But when the names Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge come to my mind, that's what really irritates me about this. And here's why. Because I'm looking at guys. I remember the last 2 years in Portland, LaMarcus Aldridge averaging 23 a game, and he was supposed to be that glue, you know, with Tim Duncan fading away into the twilight before he was going to retire, with Kawhi Leonard being there and all of that stuff. He was supposed to be that guy. Blake Griffin, remember, I mean, come on now. Remember Lob City? Remember all of that? You were there.
I was there.
You were hosting. You was hosting a radio show in LA for 6 years. You remember Lob City? He was the cornerstone of the franchise. Both of them came up short. Never even been in the conference finals, for crying out loud, okay? Even though I think LaMarcus Aldridge was at least once in San Antonio. I'm just saying, when I look at that, and then I see you jumping on this bandwagon, it's something that turns me off about that, because you were supposed to be one of those dudes. You were supposed to be one of those dudes who was the cornerstone of the franchise that was leading the team to the promised land, as opposed to just sitting up there and just chilling out and having a ring slid on your finger. Right? You know, that's what I'm talking about. That's a turnoff for me. And again, with Kevin Durant, it's not fair, and I'll openly admit that to bring this up, but it's apropos only from the standpoint of just paying attention to history in that regard. When he went to Golden State, he went there because he couldn't capture the chip in OKC playing with Russell Westbrook. But when he went to Golden State, he was the man. He was still the best, even though Steph Curry's the greatest shooter we've ever seen in our lifetime, and him and Klay Thompson are the best shooter backcourt we've ever seen in our lifetime. Kevin Durant was still the best player on that team. We understand how lethal he was. Blake Griffin has fallen off significantly, and to the point where he gets a dunk and we're celebrating. It's damn near back page news. Okay, and now LaMarcus Aldridge, who just weaned out in San Antonio, suddenly he's on this team. And I'm just like, damn, what's next? We gonna get the best ball player in the NBA too? I mean, what the hell is next, for crying out loud? That's how I look at it, and that's the turnoff portion. If those dudes didn't capture a chip, but was still lethal in terms of being straight up ballers, Max, I would have a completely different mentality. But the drop off has been so precipitous The fact that they are about to get a ring,
right,
under those conditions, I'm like, oh.
But
damn.
that's not you getting turned off by the Nets.
That's right.
That's you getting turned off by the players.
Right.
Okay.
That's what I'm saying.
Then that's fine. I was going to say if you're
you're not going to Nets.
The Nets ain't getting LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin. They're getting the remains of LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin. Let's be honest. What does LaMarcus Aldridge do well right now? Was he going to get a 20-minute-a-game player? He can play basketball, sure, but he ain't LaMarcus Aldridge anymore. And by the way, he never really could shoot the three. He was like a deep mid-range shooter. It's one of the reasons he and DeRozan. It's one of the reasons the Spurs weren't better with those guys in a three-point shooting league. They're taking shots that are just as difficult to hit, but you only get 2 points instead of 3 if you make them. And LaMarcus Aldridge isn't even that guy anymore. He's a faded version of himself. And Blake Griffin, who knows what you're getting? Likely not much. So I'm not mad at the Nets or at KD. You talk about, this is the second time it's happened for KD now. This is totally different for me with KD. KD in Golden State couldn't get by Golden State, and then Golden State couldn't get by LeBron. So they joined forces. They're like, that's really about LeBron. Let's beat this guy somehow. Golden State won 73 games. The all-time record in the regular season came, a possession or two away of winning the championship? And then added an MVP player in KD. They'd have destroyed everyone with someone less than KD because they were already that stacked. That doesn't prove anything to me, KD. I don't care if you won Finals MVP. How could you not? You have to worry about Clay and Steph and everybody. This is different. KD went to Brooklyn off an Achilles, catastrophic injury, never knowing if you're going to be the same again. Brings Kyrie at first. Went a year like that. Then they trade for Harden. There was no guarantee Harden and Kyrie would even be able to share a backcourt. You have to take your hat off to those guys, the way they figured out the chemistry, and it took them a week. So I'm not going to be down on KD for surrounding himself with talent, for building a team the way LeBron did in Miami.
Right.
That's fine. And as far as these dudes joining them, you mentioned Blake. You can mention LaMarcus Aldridge. You can mention DeAndre Jordan. Nick Claxton may be the guy you want there. I mean, it's not like they have a lot. It's name brands. It's not great players anymore in terms of these buyout types they're getting now.
Well, see, Max Kellerman, you went someplace where I wanted to go. I just wanted you to go first. And because you know me, there's a method to my madness. Because you know who I ultimately blame for all of this? I blame LeBron James. It's all his fault. It's all his fault, okay? First of all, you go to it is hypocritical of me because even though I didn't like what happened, it was in South Beach. So why would I complain about having to go to South Beach? I mean, come on now. You understand? So I'm just throwing myself out on Front Street and that. I got it. But remember when they won the championship in Cleveland? And then the next year he came back, you had D-Wade to the mix. You had Deron Williams to the mix as well. You tried to do something like that in order to repeat as champions. KD ultimately hijacks your run because what does he do? He goes to Golden State, and now he's one up you there. And then he won back-to-back titles. Should have won 3. Would have had a 3-peat had he not torn his Achilles. Would have easily had a 3-peat without question, okay? But then after that, what happens? Now he comes to Brooklyn, and this is what he's doing. So you've got a situation where LeBron has opened the floodgates. Thank God. Hopefully, AD will be back. He'll be healthy because with him and LeBron and adding Andrew Drummond, I think Andrew Drummond is a big pickup, which we'll get into. But in the end, what it comes down to, thank God, there's some level of competition. Because, see, that's the biggest thing. When I appeared with KD on the boardroom on this show on ESPN Plus from before, when I appeared on there, okay, what I explained was it's all about competition. I'm old school, man. I grew up watching the NBA. I've been covering the NBA for 26, 27 years. I've been watching it all my life pretty much. I love the NBA and I love competition. And you want to see people wanting to go against one another. And there's this culture where everybody's trying to join one another. And that goes against everything that I'm about. And I think that KD was definitely more significant because you joined a juggernaut. They had won 73 games and you joined a juggernaut.
But what Magic really showed these dudes is
Magic?
Yeah, excuse me. LeBron really showed, I'm going to talk about Magic in a second. What LeBron really showed these dudes, including KD, is that we can do the same thing the teams are doing. Because I think, the reason I said Magic is I think about the Lakers in 79-80. That's Magic's rookie year, right? It's him and Kareem.
Okay.
But
they drafted Worthy.
But still, no.
It was a draft,
I'm not talking about Worthy, though.
Okay.
I'm talking about Jamal Wilkes And I'm talking
He's
about
already on the squad, right?
Norm Nixon, right?
Norm Nixon was already there.
That's right. And then they traded for Spencer Haywood, right?
Yeah, but
my point is,
it was draft though.
Okay, my point is what LeBron showed the world and other players like KD is. You see the way the teams are the boss and the GMs put together? Because the Lakers had a super duper team. Stephen A. Did they need Spencer Haywood? Like they needed to grab an all-star power forward to go with all-time great center. They didn't need to do it, but they did it. And what LeBron showed KD is we can do that too. I'm going to take Chris Bosh. Me and Wade and Chris Bosh are going to do it. KD said, bet. I'll just go and join Golden State. Oh, those aren't the rules? Bet. I'll make my own team. Me, Kyrie, and Harden. What's the difference between him doing that and a GM doing that in LA?
I understand that. But what I'm trying to tell you is that the players themselves are the ones on the court competing. I'm not saying that the GMs, the executives don't compete out there. And I'm not faulting Sean Marks, who I think is doing an outstanding job. And I'm not faulting the Brooklyn Nets. I don't blame you. You could be all over me if I was doing that. I would do the same thing if I was them. LaMarcus Aldridge and Blake Griffin gave up about $20 million to get there, okay? They gave up about $20 million to end up on the roster.
An expensive ring.
Exactly. There we go.
They're buying an expensive ring.
They're buying a ring. But what I'm saying is I'm not